Welcome to today's video, CSIRO Megatrends, Understanding Key Trends and Drivers of Digital Transformation. Today, we'll be going through what is a megatrend, how do we identify them, how can they help, how do they fit into design thinking, and we'll be going through the 7 megatrends that the report from the CSIRO has identified. And then we'll be starting to think about how we can look at the future and how we can fit megatrends into our design thinking process. By the end of today's session, we should be able to understand what a megatrend is and how it is identified through strategic foresight. We should be able to identify and explain the 7 megatrends, understand how megatrends inform design thinking and digital transformation processes, and finally, apply knowledge of megatrends to practical scenarios in design and transformation. Firstly, who are the CSIRO? They are the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation, Australia's national science agency. They are dedicated to addressing national and global challenges through science, technology, and collaborating with governments, research sector, industry, and the community. A megatrend is a trajectory of change likely to have a substantial and transformative impact on individuals, organizations, and societies. Megatrends typically unfold over years or decades and occur at the intersection of multiple interconnected trends that are narrower in scope. I want you to think about the ocean and how there are different undercurrents that pull in different directions. This picture demonstrates how dye can reveal the hidden flow of rip currents in the ocean. And we do this so we can allow ourselves safe passage. And similarly, megatrends highlight the underlying forces that shape our world, and they enable organizations to effectively navigate through change. We identify megatrends through strategic foresight, and this helps people explore different possible futures to make informed decisions and achieve better outcomes. So rather than focusing on a single outcome, strategic foresight employs both quantitative and qualitative tools to think about multiple futures with varying degrees of uncertainty. It's helpful to visualize strategic foresight through the cone of possible futures. So as you can see down here, this is where we are in the present. And as things unfold, there are multiple ways that the future might actually eventuate. Here we have the probable, the plausible, the possible, and here we might have the preferable, where we want to aim for. The CSIRO have a generic strategic foresight framework that they work through. They first of all understand the core issues, doing a lot of study and scope definition. They then start to identify the patterns of change, looking to the horizon to identify trends, and these often come in the categories of geopolitical, social, economical, environmental, and technological. They screen, classify, validate, and then they start to look how they can converge. They collate, they synthesize, and cluster these trends into emerging megatrends. Based on this information, they start to look at how this could potentially evolve in the future and craft narratives. These narratives then help to inform strategy, planning, and decision making. Megatrends can help in a number of ways. They can help us anticipate future needs, they can inform strategic planning, drive research, inform risk management strategies, optimize resource allocation, enhance competitive positioning, and help us develop sustainable goals. It's important to remember that everything is interconnected, and this is where systems thinking comes into play. A system is made up of interconnected parts, each affecting the whole. So how one part impacts the system depends on the others. In traditional problem solving, we tend to focus on parts in isolation, and it often fails because we overlook these interactions and it can create new issues elsewhere. Peter Senge recognized that problems within organizations should not be solved in isolation, but by understanding the system as a whole. And this applies to megatrends on a macro level. The interconnectedness of parts. So systems are made up of interconnected parts. So the behavior of the whole system depends on how these parts interact. Feedback loops. These interconnections often form feedback loops where changes in one part influence another. Emergent properties. The system as a whole exhibits behaviors or outcomes that can't be understood just by looking at the individual parts. We need to understand them by their interactions. Systems thinking embraces a holistic approach, so it recognizes that changes to one part of a system can have a ripple effect and affect the entire system. By combining the strategic insights of megatrends with design thinking, organizations can create future-ready solutions that remain relevant and sustainable. How do megatrends fit with design thinking? So here we have our model of design thinking. Firstly, in the empathy stage, we can understand emerging societal and environmental needs influenced by megatrends to better empathize with future user challenges. In the define stage, we can use megatrends to frame our problem statements within a broader context, ensuring that solutions are relevant to long-term shifts. In the ideation phase, we can generate ideas that anticipate future needs and challenges. We can design prototypes with megatrends in mind to ensure that they are scalable, sustainable, and adaptable to potential future scenarios and needs. We can test solutions against future scenarios shaped by megatrends to evaluate their long-term feasibility and relevance. And finally, we can roll out the solution and evaluate the long-term impact and sustainability of the solution in light of emerging megatrends. What are the 7 megatrends? We firstly have adapting to a changing climate, leaner, cleaner and greener, escalating health imperative, geopolitical shifts, diving into digital, increasingly autonomous, and unlocking the human dimension. We will be going through these megatrends in a little more detail, and we'll also be talking about how this may impact digital transformation. Adapting to a changing climate recognizes that climate change is increasingly impacting on vulnerable communities, which means that we have to have resilience and adaptation of critical infrastructure. We need to develop proactive strategies and practices that are essential for organizations and communities to address these challenges. How might this impact digital transformation? Here are just some considerations. We need to develop digital infrastructure to maintain service continuity during extreme weather events. It means that we have to create systems with robust backup and recovery capabilities. There needs to be an emergency response plan in the event of extreme weather or natural disaster. And we can also leverage technology to monitor and predict changing climate, providing insight to how people may be affected. Leaner, cleaner and greener. So the global population is increasing, which means that there's pressure on finite resources like food, water, minerals and energy. This drives innovation for resource efficiency, carbon neutrality, biodiversity preservation and waste reduction. Science and technology enable organizations to adapt to these tighter constraints and hopefully progress towards sustainability. How might this affect digital transformation? Well, We need to develop sustainable service delivery models that prioritize digital efficiency and resource optimization. We need to have data-driven policies that can ensure that services align with the broader sustainability goals and address specific local challenges. And again, we need to leverage and promote technologies that support sustainability initiatives. The escalating health imperative. So this megatrend emphasizes the importance of preventative and precision health approaches to enhance health outcomes. Healthcare expenditure is a trend that is likely to increase with an aging population and emerging health challenges, and we saw this with COVID-19. Considerations for digital transformation. It's important that we use data to monitor patterns of health so we can see the determinants and the protective factors. Digital transformation can champion integrated service delivery so that we have a more holistic approach to treatment across agencies. Digital health platforms can enhance preventative health by providing information, tools, and resources. And finally, telehealth services can improve access to health treatment. And again, this is something that we saw in COVID-19 pandemic. Geopolitical shifts. This megatrend explores the impact of emerging geopolitical shifts on science, technology, trade, supply chains, and defense strategies. There's a lot going on in the world at the moment, and that has a potential to affect peace and stability. So this has led to increased defense spending and collaboration on security, technology, and defense capabilities. Considerations for digital transformation means that there's been a lot of investment in cybersecurity. We need to protect our sensitive data from potential cyber threats, particularly related to geopolitical tensions. Digital systems that enhance the resilience of critical infrastructure, such as utilities and communication networks, are vital. We also need to develop digital tools that can help support crisis management and public engagement. Diving into digital, this is where we sit. This megatrend explores the next wave of digital opportunities for organizations. Rapid adoption of digital technologies has accelerated transformation across sectors. And despite these advancements, there's much more to come. Considerations. We need to accelerate the development and expansion of digital services. This means exploring and investing in technologies to drive innovation in service delivery. We need to invest in integrated digital platforms to improve user experience. We also need to be aware of the digital divide and bridging that divide. We need to implement strategies to ensure that all citizens have access to digital services and the internet, along with digital literacy. Increasingly autonomous. So this megatrend examines how AI and related technologies are enhancing productivity, addressing global challenges, and their socio-economic impacts. So advancements in AI and machine capabilities are enabling complex problem solving without any direct human input. Considerations. We can utilize AI to analyze data and predict trends or needs. So this might mean identifying at-risk populations for targeted interventions or optimizing resource allocation based on forecasted demand. Can be very useful for scenario modeling to assess the potential impacts of different decisions to make more informed choices. But on the flip side, we need to make sure that AI systems are ethically designed to protect fairness and equity. Unlocking the human dimension. So this megatrend highlights the social drivers that shape future behaviours. It's recognising that empowered consumers will likely play a greater role as partners in future business, policy and community decision making. This means that there has been an increased demand for transparency so that we can maintain trust. The fast rate of technological change now means that we have new ethical considerations to make. So considerations for digital transformation means that we're going to incorporate user feedback and human-centered design principles in the development of digital services. We need to prioritize inclusive design principles in digital services to make sure that we have accessibility and usability for all. We need to develop and enforce ethical guidelines for digital tools. And we need to build trust by providing transparent and accessible information about the decisions, processes, and data usage. How can we think about the future? While strategic thinking and planning necessitate considering potential futures, they often remain objective and neutral. So how can we integrate our hopes, our aspirations into this framework so that we can empower ourselves and others as agents of change? This is where we can consider the future as a psychological space. So scenario planning is a strategic method that is used to explore and prepare for multiple plausible future outcomes. However, it's often presented as an objective, neutral process that analyzes external factors and trends. And this approach neglects how individuals and organizations project their hopes, fears, and assumptions onto future scenarios. So in this way, the future is often treated as a psychological space. The uncertainty is reframed as a key source of strategic motivation, and this provides opportunities for growth and improvement. Viewing the future as a psychological space helps us to structure and approach it more effectively. This approach acknowledges three key psychological elements: the way that we think, the cognitive; the affective, how we feel, our emotions; and cognitive, our will and what we intend to do. So our decisions and actions about the future are driven by the interaction by what we think, feel, and intend. I want you to challenge yourself to think of the future as a landscape, where we have psychological elements that appear as features within this landscape. You, the strategic actor, we can consider as the individual or the organization, can be imagined within this landscape looking out along a path into the future. So this metaphor makes the concept of the future as a psychological space more tangible and literal. Here is an example where the sea is our landscape. We are the boat, the strategic actor. We need to sail the sea to get to safe shores and climb the mountain to reach the star. Let me explain. We have things that help us move forward, like the wind, and we also have things that might be holding us back, like anchors. There might be obstacles in the way, like rocks, and there also might be a current that pulls us in one direction. We need to be aware of all these things to help us get safely to the mountain. The mountain itself is our strategic goal. In order to climb the mountain, we need to figure out what steps we need to take to where we want to go. The star is our overall vision. What are we trying to achieve? So let's explain a little bit further. The strategic actor represents the self or the organization and the current reality, including identity, strengths, weaknesses, values, and experience. The star symbolizes the enduring purpose, the vision that we have, what we are working towards, what's important. The mountain is a little bit more practical. It represents our strategic goal. That's the thing that we need to climb. We need to go through these steps in order to reach a medium-term objective. It should be worthwhile, it should be inspiring, challenging, but achievable with effort. The sea represents the changing conditions that we face along the way. It means that we have to tactically adjust our response to evolving circumstances. So that is where we see the winds, what pushes us along, what holds us back, what are the obstacles, and what are the currents that are pulling us in certain directions. And the currents may be megatrends. It's an unusual activity, we understand, but it can be very helpful to think about the future as a landscape. So we've included that slide of the sea, the boat, the mountain as a handout for you to refer back to when thinking about the problems that you are wanting to solve. We've also included the CSIRO report, Our Future World, Global Megatrends Impacting the Way We Live Over the Coming Decades. And I also included a link here for the Chief CSIRO, Larry Marshall, talking about science megatrends that we're up against. Let's review our learning outcomes. So hopefully you understand what a megatrend is and how we can identify it. We can identify and explain the 7 megatrends. We can understand how they inform design thinking and digital transformation, and apply this knowledge to practical scenarios in design and transformation. Time to reflect on your learning. So we have included a reflection activity and a summary of all the slides that we've gone through today. Really recommend that you go and check that out. It will ask you about how megatrends may impact the work that you do and how you might be able to incorporate megatrends into your design thinking process. We've come to the end of our video today on CSIRO megatrends. Hopefully it's helped you understand a few key trends and drivers of digital transformation. Really hope that it helps you in your design thinking journey. Take care.